are back.
Sorry, I don't know why that was so weird.
Take charge voice.
Yes, I'm taking charge and speaking with confidence. Welcome back to...
Can you hear the pod tonight?
Can you hear the pod tonight? Yes, that is the name of our podcast. The podcast where we talk about Disney movies and drink tea. Mm-hmm. We are your hosts and married couple.
I'm Kris.
No, you're not. You took the words out of my mouth.
Just kidding. Go for it.
I'm Melody.
Because Melody's voice got really deep all of a sudden. So, I'm Melody.
And I'm Kris. And today we're here to talk about a Disney film whilst we drink our tea. Melody, what tea are we drinking today?
Ooh, it is still a little hot for me.
It's pretty darn hot, I think, so I'm going to give it a second.
We are drinking two different things. We need to replenish our tea supply. You're drinking everyday immune support lemon tea.
Wow.
And I'm just drinking immune support, a Kanica, or however you say that word. I totally botch words all the time. Like the other night, I said envelope instead of envelop, and I legitimately thought that's how it was said for a moment.
You did.
You were in shock that I was so lost in my pronunciation.
It's very endearing. It's okay.
Endearing means it's very stupid in a cute way. That is what that is code for, my love. But it's fine. But yes, if somebody knows how to actually pronounce that word, let me know.
Yeah, we need some more tea because we are only really drinking tea when we record these podcasts twice a month.
We're not true tea drinkers. Some people out there probably think we just we're tea connoisseurs.
Unless we spill the tea. And today we're spilling the tea on this Disney film.
Is that a phrase?
Yeah, you don't know the phrase, spilling the tea?
It's spilled the beans.
Well, it's also spilled the tea.
Only if you're part of the Boston Tea Party.
Well, sure, but I've heard it said before.
Okay.
I've heard it written,
it's
too.
Because you're a cross-it boy with your different phrases.
You blame everything you've never heard of. You've never heard me say. You blame it all on just where I came from.
Yes. Well, how else are we going to blame?
And today we're talking about Walt Disney's 18th feature animated film, The Sword and the Stone.
Sword and the Stone.
The Sword and the Stone.
Indeed.
Yes.
This is not one that I watched growing up.
You did not see this growing up. That's my first question.
Now, is this released in the 70s or 60s?
60s.
The 60s.
Early 63.
Wow. Okay.
1963.
Because it had definitely some ideas in it that were on the board. It's not really the 1950s idyllic. It had some strange concepts.
Unpack that.
Well,
what do you mean?
Getting into the whole ways of teaching, how, what's the wizard's name?
Merlin.
Sorry, it's just a basic name for a wizard.
Well, he's the wizard.
He's the
there's the most famous wizard in
so he
history.
Is the Merlin. Okay, I thought it was just a Merlin ripoff.
No, this is King Arthur. This is about King Arthur. This is based on the Arthurian legend.
All right, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not botching this.
You're okay. No.
But what was I gonna say? Yeah, his teaching methods with the young child.
Right.
Were kind of unconventional.
Yes. Yeah, because he's very experience things. So basically, I guess we'll get into the plot of this movie. In case you don't know, person out there listening to this in podcast land. So this movie essentially is about a boy named Arthur who goes by Wart. And one day he stumbles upon the cottage of a wizard named Merlin. Merlin decides he's going to be this... before he even meets him, he's decided he's going to be this young boy's tutor. He's going to be his mentor. Why? He's not sure. He just knows he's supposed to. So he basically takes him through all of these different kinds of life lessons, teaching him all these things that... I think if you're more familiar with the King Arthur legend and things, I think there are some things that he teaches him throughout this movie that will sort of foreshadow things that happen to King Arthur later in his life. I can't really get into specifics. I'm not an Arthurian expert. But Yeah, I think there are things in here that are meant to sort of foreshadow, lessons that Arthur is supposed to take with him when he becomes king. Spoiler alert.
Oh, indeed.
So yeah, it's much less of a sort of like, school of academia type of teaching, and much more of a sort of
life skills, kind of.
Yeah, life skills. Yeah.
And like using your imagination for like problem solving. So it's like he turns him into a fish, and it's like, no, you don't know how to swim, but you have to like imagine if you were a fish, how would your body move? Mm-hmm. And then it's like outsmart the predator. Like you have the wits.
Use your brains over brawn.
Yeah. I guess I was wondering, like, when you said 60s, I was like, oh, because it almost kind of felt like a weird drug trip with the way that he was turning him into, like, these animals and these things. And I was like, what a strange experience. Like, is he just taking shrooms in the background?
Well, this is based on a book that I think came out in the 40s. And this is actually, so getting into a little bit of backstory about this movie, this is actually a property that Walt Disney acquired the rights for, I think, in the 40s. And he was been cooking an idea for this movie since the 40s, but World War II kind of got in the way of that for a while. Other properties kind of got pushed to the forefront, and this movie kind of took a back seat until 1963, when it is basically made by the animators, because Walt Disney is not really heavily involved. And this is actually the last Disney movie that is released when Walt Disney is alive. So Walt Disney, I think, dies.
Interesting.
I think a year or so after this is released. I'm a little fudgy on that, but yeah, this is the last Disney animated film that's released while he is alive. So he's knee deep in Walt Disney in Disneyland. He's not really paying attention to what the animators are
that's
doing.
why it
checking
feels,
in on occasion, but not
it feels
so much.
different than like what he.
Yeah, this one comes right after 101 Dalmatians, which is the film that they really transitioned over to this Xerox style, if we'll call it that way, where they're basically Xeroxing drawings directly onto film, so it has a much more of a like pencil kind of look to it. So it's much more kind of scrappy.
I like that style.
Very, very different. Basically the opposite of Lady and the Tramp, which is the last one we talked about. Lady and the Tramp is very like clean and very painterly and has all these like gorgeous backgrounds. And this one almost feels like it reminded me of like, very like, I don't want to say cheap, but inexpensive animation from like the 70s that you would see on TV.
Yeah.
Which there is a charm. I think there's a charm to that style.
There is a charm, yeah.
Well, you did not watch this as a kid. What did you think of it now?
It was cute. Definitely different. It just really didn't feel like a Disney movie to me.
In what way?
Did it have a clear-cut like villain?
Yeah, it doesn't have like some clear staples. Like there is no real villain. There's Madame Mim who shows up in the third act.
Yeah, but there isn't really any.
It's more of an obstacle.
It kind of just feels like, here we go along with our training. Oh, look, you're actually going to be the king. You took the sword up. There was like a few like minor setbacks for him, but there wasn't any like story arc of like, this is a great evil that you must defeat. Or, which I guess Lady and the Tramp was the same way. Like it didn't have like a...
Yeah, but this feels more episodic, I think.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, the animation style changed, and so, like, the animation also doesn't really make me think flat out Disney.
Yeah, this isn't really what we, I think, kind of think of when we think of, like, traditional Disney animation. And I don't think this movie's particularly thought of as, like, one of the classics. I think people who like it, really like it.
Yeah, I've noticed it seems like a bunch of like boys really like this movie.
Yeah.
I've never met a girl that's like, oh, I watched Sword of the Stone as a kid. It's more of like a little boys, like as a sword and. Yeah,
well, we have a boy as our main character, and then his mentor is also a man, so it's almost like a male bonding type of movie, but in a sort of like not in a particular like macho or it's kind of like an intellectual like male bonding movie where this old man is going to give this wisdom to this young man.
Yeah. And he's kind of like a scrappy man himself. Like he has all this wisdom, but he's like a little bit scatterbrained with it.
Yeah, I love Merlin in this movie.
Style, yeah.
He's my favorite thing about the movie. I find him really funny. Like the whole beginning of the movie where he's just like messing with his beard keeps getting in the way of things. Yeah, I think he's really funny and really endearing as a character, and he's what like makes the movie for me. I think.
Sweet, yeah.
That and just I think also the sort of like wizardy aspect. Like I think the thing I remember most about this movie I think is the first just like 15 minutes where it's like at his cottage.
Yes, that is the vibe. You were like, I want to go to there. When
I want to live in his cottage.
Has like all these books and
yes.
a comforting, nostalgic.
All these like instruments and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that whole beginning of the movie. I think that's what I kind of took from this the most. So I did watch this as a kid. I think I owned a recorded off of TV version of this because I can still remember where the commercials are. Whenever awesome. Like in parts of the movie where it would like fade to black for the next scene, I'm like commercial right there, commercial. But I didn't watch it a ton, but I did see it a few times. But yeah, it is kind of very episodic in that it goes from one thing to another. Some stuff I think works better than others. The music in this movie was done by the Sherman Brothers. So, are you familiar with the Sherman Brothers?
I don't believe I am.
Okay, so do you remember in Saving Mr. Banks, there's the two guys who are like writing all the music for Mary Poppins?
Yes, I remember.
So those are the Sherman Brothers. One's played by B.J. Novak from The Office. One's played by Jason Schwartzman.
Okay.
So they were the Sherman Brothers, and they're kind of like Disney legends. They kind of came into the Disney studio around this time, and I think this was the first movie they did for the studio. So right after this, they did Mary Poppins, which was a huge, enormous hit and kind of solidified their place in Disney history. But they also did like Winnie the Pooh and Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So I think I like their music a lot in this. I don't think it's like...
Is it bad that I'm not even, like, remembering the music? You're like, yeah, I loved it, like, and I'm like, I don't actually really remember.
I like the music, but I will, like, admit, and I feel like I knew this would be a thing where, yeah, it's not, like, super memorable. I didn't expect you to remember any of the songs from this.
Well, maybe if I had, like, if you'd been like, hey, pay attention to the music.
Hey, pay attention to the song.
Sing
along, Melody.
I was just looking at the visuals.
Sing along! Sing along to the music now! That would be a very weird watching experience. Oh, we'll just have to like watch the sing-along version with all the words.
No, you know I hate sing-alongs.
So yeah, he turns him into a fish, turns him into a squirrel, and there's a really sad sequence.
Oh my gosh, the squirrel part. That was weird at first because it was like, so he became a squirrel.
She's a very aggressive, female squirrels.
Yeah, so some girl squirrels were like, hey, there's a cute boy squirrel over there, and then they start chasing him. Wart, I guess, blanking on his name. He's like, I'm not actually a squirrel, I'm a human boy. But she just won't listen.
Yeah.
And then like the wizard, like Merlin's laughing like haha, and then like another girl does the same thing to him. But it's almost like, yeah, they are aggressively pursuing them. Like, don't you want to change yourself back into a human before you scar like this child for life? It's like his first kiss is with a squirrel. It's like, this isn't how I imagined it to be.
Yeah. And it kind of hit me at this for the first time when I was thinking about the lessons him learning were going to sort of like echo, maybe like foreshadow things that happened to King Arthur later in his life.
Oh, yeah.
Because he does end up marrying Guinevere. Like, that's a story. And she leaves him for Lancelot. So that's like learning about heartbreak, I guess, which he doesn't, I don't think, fully. I guess he does learn it because he does see that she was distraught and they're walking away.
Side note,
that love business is a powerful thing.
Side note, I have a first grade girl whose name is Guinevere in my art class that I teach.
Oh, that's a pretty name.
It is a pretty name. You don't hear it every day.
Writing that down.
Yeah, but then I guess the sad part about the squirrel was that, like, he did turn back into a human, And then she saw that he wasn't actually a squirrel, and her heart was broken. Are you gonna cut this out? Or should I just stop?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna cut that out. But
Okay, yeah. So yeah, her heart was broken, and so then we just see this squirrel. Like, I thought maybe Merlin was gonna be like, oh, let's turn her into a human too, so that way, you know, her heart isn't broken and she can be with him. But nope, squirrel just had to go off without.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think that's like a lesson that Arthur sort of learns about heartbreak, because it is sort of a thing that's going to echo with him like later.
Yeah, so that's interesting. They incorporated that idea into like, a child's cartoon.
Yeah, because this movie kind of ends when he gets the sword and the stone and becomes king. Mm-hmm. So it does sort of feel like the ending does feel a little like abrupt. Like like we don't really the titular sword and the stone doesn't really come into play until the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, he's king. And then Merlin comes back. The end. Goodbye.
Like, did Merlin know he was gonna be king? Is that why he was training him, or was he like, oh wait?
Well, he says like, of course. So it's almost like he did know, but he forgot or something like that.
Yeah, he probably
his
did.
scatterbrainedness. It's almost like he knows. Okay, yeah, that's right. I have to befriend this boy, and I have to teach him things.
He knows
I can't remember why, but I know it's gonna come about at some point.
It's important.
It's important. I'll figure it out later. And then when he becomes king, he's like, oh, that's right. You're gonna be king. And yeah, because Merlin does seem to like know the future, but bits and pieces of it, very scatterbrained.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think this movie doesn't really? I guess we've talked about it a little bit, but why do you think it's not really thought of as like one of the big classics?
Maybe just the budget wasn't as high for it, so it just like the quality of the images. I mean, there's something endearing about them to us, but like maybe when it was released, people were just.
Well, it was a hit when it came out.
It was? Mm-hmm. Oh, and then it just somehow piddled off and didn't.
Yeah, it just is. I guess it just hasn't really stuck around as much. I mean, it does have like it is kind of, I guess it's like bottom mid tier. I guess it's not completely forgotten. There are fans of this movie, and it does have like re-releases and things, but it's not really thought of as one of the bigger classics.
Well, let's think of. Are most of the classics have some form of a romantic interest in them?
I think so, yeah. I think that's an element to it. More traditional storytelling, it kind of sticks with people. So this is pretty atypical as far as storytelling goes.
Yeah. I mean, Lion King was a hit. It was with animals, but there was like a little bit of love interest in Lion King.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably a little bit more compelling narrative in that with the Lion King, too.
Yeah, I guess if it's an epic, like a story that is kind of an epic up and downfall of villain versus good guy, then it becomes.
Yeah, there's something about this that feels kind of slight.
Yeah.
Like it's a good like Sunday afternoon movie.
Yeah.
It's like very low stakes, except for the fact that Wart's life is constantly in danger because Merlin keeps putting him in situations where he's about to die.
Yes, it's played off in a silly mood though. Like it's like, oh, it's not that, It gave me stress though, because I was like, oh my gosh, like he's gonna get eaten by this fish.
Yeah.
It's like,
did you notice the voice actor of the owl was Piglet?
Oh yeah, I think we mentioned that. Yeah, the owl.
That's the first time I've ever noticed
the owl like was kind of like the wits for Merlin. Like he helps try to keep him in line.
One of the funnest things about rewatching these now as an adult is noticing the voice actors, because they reuse voice actors all the time. Especially in this era, so like noticing that the kid who voiced, or what I should say, one of the kids who voiced Arthur or Wart. Apparently,
you told me that they've changed the actors.
Yeah, apparently the original actor who did like one of the puppies in 101 Dalmatians, they brought him onto this. They brought him in to record dialogue, and usually how the process of recording dialogue for a movie works is that they record it over like months. So they bring him in, do some lines, and then they'll maybe write some more scenes, and then they'll record them again. Apparently, halfway through the film, his voice started cracking and changing. So there are times when his voice, he sounds like a teenage boy whose voice is cracking, and then apparently they brought in like some of the directors or animators' sons, and had them record
That
dialogue.
explains, yeah, because there are parts where I'm like, gosh, this voice is so, like, sounds so just
Inconsistent, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely times when it's like clearly a teenager whose voice is cracking, and other times when it sounds like a young boy, and it's like three different boys, and sometimes it's in the same scene.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's something I feel like I even noticed that as a kid, but then didn't really like sort of put the pieces together. So this is a movie in which a wizard with a long white beard befriends a young boy and teaches him things, and there's lots of magic, and he's a scrawny boy who is mistreated by his...
There's an owl.
And there's an owl there's a scrawny boy who's been mistreated by his family.
Yes.
Who's destined for great things.
And he was an orphan of some sorts too, right?
Right.
They just took him in.
I'm just imagining J.K. Rowling watching this movie and getting drunk and thinking, I'll put some round glasses on this boy and send him to a school. And this will be my story.
Oh, he probably did. And you like add a little scar.
I'm just saying, Disney, I think there are grounds for legal action. You could get on this while she's down.
While she's like kick her while she's down.
Yeah, get on this while the tea has been spilled. All right. Well, you know, we've been doing some older movies. Maybe we should do a newer one next time.
Okay. Are we gonna do the one that we discussed?
We also might have a guest next time.
Yes,
hopefully. If I can tie him down. Not literally, but tie him down to a time to record with us.
Have we reached the end of our notes?
I think so. Is there anything else you want to say about the Sword and Stone?
Not really. I just want to read what my tea thing says as a way to close out. Unless you say your final thoughts, and then I want to read what my tea encouragement says on the tab.
Okay, I'll just say that there are parts of this movie that I do still kind of have like fond memories of, and I think it's like a perfectly nice movie to put on. I think I might like it a little bit more than Lady and the Tramp. If we're like kind of
it was
them
kind
better.
of the humor was funny to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kept my attention more.
Yeah,
and the vibe was an important thing too.
Yes,
it's a very big word with us.
Yes.
If you have any thoughts on the Sword and
I
Stone,
might revisit the vibe. See if I can.
Please let us know.
Recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's your encouragement for the rest of your evening or day.
Okay.
It says this on my tea, my yogi thing.
Mm-hmm.
When fear is forcing you to give up, call upon your heart's courage to continue. So, I think that's important. I was just reminded this week of how, it's just, you want to not let fear.
Ow!
Given. Okay, I'm not going to go into a preachy thing. You can devise whichever you want.
It reminds me of the end of the movie when he's like Merlin is like he actually gets mad at him. Like it's kind of like dealing with a lot of adult emotions in the last act. How he gets mad at him when Arthur says he's going to become Kay's squire, and he's like, I thought you were going to amount to something. I thought you had a few brains.
Yeah.
And he gets like actually mad at him, and he's like basically saying to him like, you are more than you think you are. Like you're settling.
The kid was mad too though, because he's like, this is a good thing for me, like because he has absolutely no vision of what he what
he's
he
like, this is
could
all be. Because he thinks this is all I can be in this world, essentially. And Merlin says like, no, I know you have so much more in you, essentially. But yeah.
And then your tea thing, do you want to read what yours says?
Sure.
To the point and basic.
I kind of feel like it's like fortune cookies. I never read them. Be kind to yourself.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Okay. Be kind, rewind.
Be kind and rewind. And tune in next time for another episode of Can You Hear the Pod Tonight?
Yes.
Peace out.